Hello everyone, my name is Ray, and welcome back to Case Study with me. So today's case is one of the most brutal and scariest cases of Japan. So without any further delay, let's start today's case, which revolves around the Junko Furuta rape case, which took place continuously for 44 days, had lasted. Furuta was born on January 18, 1971, and grew up in Masato, Saitama, where she lived with her parents, older brother, and younger brother. She was 17 years old at the time of her murder. She studied in Yashio Minami High School and worked a part-time job at a plastic molding factory. From October 1988, she started to save money for a graduation trip. Furuta also accepted a job offer at an electronics retailer, where she planned to work after graduation. Furuta is well liked by his classmates and teachers, due to his high grades and never being absent. According to her friends, she dreamed of becoming a singer. The perpetrators of this heinous crime were four boys: Hiroshi Miyano, which is 18-year-old, Joe Ogura, 17-year-old, Shinji Minato, 16-year-old, and Yasushi Watanabe, 17-year-old. Miyano had a history of aggressive behavior since childhood, such as shoplifting and damaging school property. Later, all four dropped out of high school in the summer of 1988, becoming involved in organized crime and move out to Adachi, so Minato's family home in Tokyo, as a hangout place for his gang members. Beginning in October, they were involved in various crimes, including theft, assault, and rape. But on November 8th, the group abducted a 19-year-old woman in Adachi and gang raped her in a hotel there. But later, all four of them were released from jail because Miyano also had connections with the Japanese mafia, named Yakuza Gang. Later on the evening of November 25th, 1988, Miyano and Minato were driving around Masato on their motorcycles with the intention of robbing and raping women when they saw Furuta, who was walking home from his part-time job. On Miyano's orders, Minato knocks Furuta off his bicycle and flees the scene. Miyano, under the pretext of witnessing the attack by chance, approached Furuta and asked him to accompany to his home. Gaining his trust, Miyano took Furuta to a nearby warehouse and threatened him, claiming to be a member of the Yakuza gang, saying that he would spare her life only if she followed his orders. But Furuta refused, which enraged Miyano, and that night, he took Furuta by taxi to a hotel in Adachi, where he raped her. She later calls Minato's house and tells Ogura about the rape, after which Ogura tells her not to let Furuta go. November 26th, during the early morning, Miyano took Furuta to a park near the hotel. Miyano took Furuta to an abandoned warehouse where he told him about his Yakuza members, and there, Ogura, Minato, and Watanabe were waiting. They told him that they knew where she lived and that the Yakuza gang would kill her family if she tried to escape. Minato imprisoned Furuta in a room on the second floor of his house in Adachi with the motive of gang raping of her, where Furuta was held captive for the next 44 days. But on the next day, when she was missing, November 27th, Furuta's parents informed the police about his disappearance and asked for further investigation after death of Furuta. Later, police asked Miyano's parents, and they said they were present at the house when Furuta was imprisoned. While he was doing all this, the gang abandoned this pretense when it became clear that Minayo's parents would not report them to the police, and they were to try. He later told the police that he was afraid of his son because he had threatened to kill him. At the same time, he also asked Junko to call home and tell her parents that she had run away with her boyfriend, and if she did not do that, Minayo would kill her entire family. On the night of November 28th, Miyano, along with Nakamura and Ihara, gang raped Furuta. For the next 40 days, Junko was subjected to rape. In one case, she was raped by 12 different people in one day, and by about 100 different men rapes, around 40 different times. When the time Furuta captive by them, they torture him so much, like they cut off her pubic hair with a razor and cut her genitals. Matchbox was used to burn the pubic hair. In early December, Furuta attempted to escape, but she was caught, and enraged by this, the group punched Furuta repeatedly in the face, and Miyano burned his ankle with a lighter and said Furuta dance on songs while being burned naked. They masturbated in front of them and forced her to stand on the balcony in skimpy clothes at midnight. And they didn't stop there. They threw in things private parts, which included an iron rod and a bottle. He was also forced to drink large quantities of alcohol, milk, and water, smoke 2 cigarettes at a time, and many more. But all this was not enough for Miyano, so he invited at least 100 members of the Yakuza gang for the sole purpose of raping the 17-year-old girl. The boys took turns to rape her and urinated on her. Furuta was beaten by the gang under the pretext that Miyano had stepped on his spilled urine, after which she burned his thighs and hands several times with the liquid inside the lighter. Around this time, Furuta, unable to tolerate the repeated attacks, begged to 4 of them to kill him. By the end of December, Furuta was severely malnourished after being given only small amounts of food like milk and cockroaches. Due to her injuries and burns, she was unable to go to the downstairs toilet and was thereafter confined to the floor of the room in a state of extreme physical and mental weakness. After repeated beatings, his appearance had changed considerably. His face was so swollen it became almost impossible to recognize his face, and a foul smell started emanating from his wounds. But on January 4th, 1989, Miyano took out his anger on Furuta after losing money in a game of mahjong the night before. He burned a candle and dripped hot wax on her face and placed 2 smaller candles on her eyelids and forced her to drink his own urine. Miyano picked up Furuta and kicked her so hard, causing her to fall onto a stereo unit, and blood came out to her body to save Furuta. The gang covered him in a plastic bag after beating her with their hands and dropped heavy iron ball on his stomach several times. Miyano poured a liquid on Furuta and set him on fire. She tried to free himself, but eventually she stopped moving. The attack lasted for about 2 hours, after which Furuta died at 10 a.m. in the morning. Less than 24 hours after his death, Minato's friend calls him to tell him that Furuta has died. Fearing that their crime would be revealed, the all 4 wrapped Furuta's body in blankets and placed it in a large suitcase, then placed the bag in an iron drum and filled it with wet concrete around 8 p.m. On January 5th, they took Furuta's body and put in a 55-gallon oil drum and filled with concrete, and they dumped the drum at a construction site. In early 1989, Miyano and Ogura were arrested for their kidnapping and gang rape of a 19-year-old woman in December 1988. When police interrogated Miyano, the police were initially puzzled by his confession, as they were questioning him about the murder of a different woman and her 7-year-old son, which had occurred 9 days prior to Furuta's abduction. Because he can't understand police talking about different women, he confessed the crime, and he told everything to them where to find his body. The drum containing Furuta's dead body was recovered by police on March 29th and was identified by fingerprints. After that, Minato, Watanabe, and subsequently Minato's brother, Nakamura, and Ihara were also arrested by police. Since the case first came to media attention, the investigating agency, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, has received numerous calls and letters from the general public demanding that the perpetrators be punished with life imprisonment or the death penalty. The Tokyo public prosecutor had sought life imprisonment for Miyano during the trial and sought life imprisonment for the other criminals. Tokyo District Court also received numerous calls and letters, but according to Japanese law, Hiroshi Miyano was a juvenile. He gets originally sentenced to 17 years in prison and then later sentenced to 20 years, which is typically the maximum sentence in Japan for a juvenile. It was the longest sentence short of life imprisonment that could be given to any teenager. Miyano's friends were also sentenced. Ogura was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. Shinji Minato was originally sentenced to 5 to 6 years in prison and then later increased to 9 years. Yasushi Watanabe was originally sentenced to 3 to 4 years in prison and revised to 7 years. Furuta's funeral was held on the 2nd April 1989, and Miyano's parents sold their family home and gave $8 million as compensation to Furuta's parents. And location on Wakasu, where her body was discovered, is now an industrial zone. So today's disturbing case end here. So if you like the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.